Many gun owners focus on bigger calibers, more power, more stopping force, without thinking about how well they can actually control the gun. It happens all the time. Someone switches to a 9mm because it's superior, only to find they can't manage the recoil for rapid, accurate shots. A 380, on the other hand, might deliver less power on paper, but if it allows the shooter to put every round center mass in quick succession, it can be far more effective in real life. In a fight, would you rather face a few wild 9mm shots or 13 380 rounds hitting exactly where they're meant to? This is a conversation the gun community doesn't have enough, and it can make all the difference. The physics of fighting. Let me break down something that most firearms instructors won't tell you straight. When you're picking a defensive caliber, you're not just choosing a cartridge, you're making a trade-off between speed and precision. And this balance changes everything depending on who's behind the trigger. Think about it this way. Your target dictates how precise you need to be, right? That never changes. But the variable is how fast you can deliver rounds into that precision zone. The more recoil you're dealing with, the slower you'll be able to shoot accurately. It's basic physics mixed with human limitations. Now here's where the 380 starts making sense. Take two similar-sized pistols, one chambered in 380 and another in 9mm. That 9mm is going to kick harder, significantly harder. We're talking about a heavier bullet moving faster, which translates to substantially more felt recoil. For some shooters, this recoil difference isn't just uncomfortable. It's the difference between hitting their target and missing completely. And before you say adrenaline will mask the pain, let me stop you right there. Sure, you might not feel the sting in your hands during a real encounter, but the recoil doesn't disappear just because you can't feel it. Your gun is still going to jump the same amount. Your follow-up shots are still going to be affected. The physics don't change because your pain receptors are temporarily numbed. When small guns become uncontrollable, people have tested micro 9mm pistols that were downright dangerous in rapid-fire sequences. There was one particular gun, won't mention the brand, but it's popular, where my first shot hit the target, second shot went to the right side of the target, and the third shot missed the target completely. And this wasn't some novice shooter having problems. I'm talking about experienced instructors who couldn't keep this thing under control either. But here's the kicker. When we shot it slowly, one careful shot at a time, it was perfectly manageable. Everyone who tested it that way proclaimed it a winner. The problem only showed up when you tried to shoot it the way you'd actually need to in a defensive situation. Fast, multiple rounds under stress. Guess who's buying these guns? New shooters. People who've never experienced the difference between controlled range shooting and rapid defensive fire. They're being sold on more power in the same package, which sounds great until you realize you can't actually use that power effectively. The mouse gun misconception. Let's address the elephant in the room. Everyone calls the 380 a mouse gun, and there's this saying that friends don't let friends carry mouse guns. But this attitude is based on some pretty shaky assumptions about what actually stops attackers. The data on this might surprise you. Greg Ellifritz compiled information from hundreds of actual shootings over many years, and what he found challenges everything we think we know about caliber effectiveness. The major calibers, 9mm, 40 Smith & Wesson, 45 ACP, they're all pretty close to each other in terms of real-world stopping power. Close enough that they're basically in a statistical dead heat. The 380? It's definitely not performing at the same level as those bigger calibers, but it's not the complete weakling everyone makes it out to be either. The difference between 380 and 40 Smith & Wesson is actually smaller than the difference between 380 and 32 ACP. And here's something that'll blow your mind. The 380 is better than half as effective as the 9mm based on real shooting data. There are real cases where .380 pistols ended threats in just a few rounds, with defenders unharmed and attackers stopped for good, proof that caliber isn't the only factor in effectiveness. The carry reality check. Many people choose the .380 not out of ignorance about ballistics or stopping power, but because they understand a truth that spec sheet debates often miss. A gun you actually carry is far more effective than one that stays at home because it's too big, heavy, or uncomfortable. The lightest 9mm pistols can weigh around 23 ounces loaded, while some .380 setups come in closer to 18. That quarter-pound difference might seem minor, but in front pocket carry, especially during summer and lightweight shorts, it's a big deal. Size matters too. The smallest 9mm tested was 3/4 of an inch longer than a .380. And in pocket carry, every millimeter counts. That extra length can mean the difference between discreet concealment and obvious printing. Here's the reality many face. Their ideal 9mm carry gun works fine under a winter jacket, but when summer hits with t-shirts and shorts, it suddenly feels like trying to hide a brick. Many simply stop carrying, but criminals don't take the summer off, and with more people out, encounters can increase. This is where the .380 excels. Its ultra-compact profile supports year-round carry. In the end, the gun you have on you will always be more effective than the one you leave at home. Weight tolerance variations. Not everyone has the same tolerance for carry weight, and it's rarely discussed in the gun community. A pistol that feels light to one person might seem bulky to another. For example, some find pocket carry uncomfortable with anything over 12 ounces, yet have no issue carrying a much heavier gun in a bag. How and where it's carried makes all the difference. This individual variation in what people can comfortably carry means there's no one-size-fits-all solution. The gun industry keeps pushing toward one perfect carry gun, but the reality is that different people have different needs, different comfort levels, and different physical capabilities. The smart approach is matching the gun to the person, not trying to force every person to adapt to the same gun. The ammunition evolution. Now let's talk about something that's completely changed the .380 game, but somehow gets overlooked in all these caliber debates. Modern ammunition technology has transformed what the .380 can actually do, and if you're still thinking about this cartridge based on old data, you're missing out on some serious developments. Traditional .380 loads used to be pretty underwhelming. You had basic full metal jacket rounds that would penetrate adequately but create minimal wound channels. Then you had early hollow points that either failed to expand or expanded too quickly and didn't penetrate enough. It was a frustrating compromise that gave the caliber its weak reputation. But today's .380 ammunition is playing by completely different rules. Federal HST, Hornady Critical Defense, Speer Gold Dot. These rounds are engineered specifically to overcome the velocity limitations of the .380 case. They're designed to expand reliably even at lower impact speeds and maintain that expansion while still achieving adequate penetration. Then you've got the really interesting stuff, the non-expanding engineered bullets. Lehigh Defense makes these copper bullets with machined flutes that create tissue disruption without relying on expansion. The Underwood 90-grain Extreme Penetrator load pushes these bullets at 1,100 feet per second and actually comes closer to matching 9mm performance than any traditional .380 load. The practice problem. Here's something nobody wants to admit. A lot of people don't practice with their carry guns because they're unpleasant to shoot. And this creates a massive problem that's way more serious than any ballistic charts can show you. There are folks who bought these tiny 9mm pistols because they wanted maximum power and minimum size. Sounds great on paper, right? But then they take it to the range, and after 50 rounds, their hands are sore, they're flinching, and they're developing bad shooting habits. So they practice less, which means they're less proficient, which means they're less likely to hit their target when it actually matters. Compare that to someone carrying a .380 who actually enjoys practicing with their gun. They're putting hundreds of rounds downrange, developing muscle memory, building confidence, and maintaining their skills. When the chips are down, who do you think is more likely to put rounds where they need to go? Bullet placement beats bullet power every single time. A well-placed .380 round to center mass is going to be infinitely more effective than a 9mm round that misses because the shooter couldn't control their gun under stress. The size reality. The gun industry has done something really clever. They've convinced people that size differences don't matter much anymore. Modern 9mm pistols are almost as small as .380s, they say. But that almost is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. Take the Ruger comparison, the LCP in .380 versus the LC9S in 9mm. We're talking about a 2.75-inch barrel versus a 3.12-inch barrel. The .380 weighs 9.75 ounces empty, while the 9mm weighs 17.2 ounces. That's not almost the same, that's a 76% weight difference. The difference between a gun that disappears in your pocket and one that's constantly reminding you it's there. The difference between a gun you can draw smoothly and one that catches on your pocket opening. The police paradox. People love to point out that no police department issues .380s as primary duty weapons. If cops don't carry them, why should I? But this argument completely misses the point of what police work actually involves versus civilian self-defense. Police officers know they're going into potentially dangerous situations. They're actively seeking out bad guys, making arrests, serving warrants. They need guns that can punch through barriers, work at longer ranges, and handle extended firefights. That's a completely different mission than civilian self-defense. Civilian defensive gun use is typically close range, short duration, and involves getting away from the threat as quickly as possible. You're not clearing buildings or engaging multiple suspects at 25 yards. You need to stop an immediate threat and create an opportunity to escape. For that mission, the .380's advantages, concealability, controllability, comfort, become much more relevant than its disadvantages in ballistic performance. The backup gun advantage. Even if you primarily carry a larger caliber, the .380 makes incredible sense as a backup option. Its small size means it can go places your primary gun can't. Ankle holster, pocket carry as a second gun, deep concealment situations where your main gun isn't accessible. Professional security personnel have understood this for decades. They carry their primary defensive weapon and have a compact backup gun for situations where the primary gun isn't practical or accessible. The .380 excels in this role because it truly disappears on your body. Making the right choice. The question isn't whether the .380 is the best defensive caliber. It's not. The question is whether it's the right defensive caliber for your specific situation and needs. And for a lot of people, the honest answer is yes. If you're someone who needs maximum concealability, if you have physical limitations that make controlling larger calibers difficult, if you're new to firearms and need something manageable to build skills with, or if you need a backup gun that truly disappears, the .380 might be exactly what you need. The key is being honest about your needs, your abilities, and your limitations. Don't let anyone shame you into carrying something you can't handle effectively. A .380 that you can shoot accurately under stress is infinitely more valuable than a .45 that you can barely control. The most important thing you can do is get proper training with whatever you choose to carry. Learn how to draw from concealment, practice shooting under stress, understand the legal implications of defensive gun use. The caliber you choose matters far less than your ability to use it effectively when your life depends on it. And remember, the best defensive gun is the one you'll actually carry every day and that you have complete confidence in. For some people, that gun happens to be chambered in .380 ACP. If this video helped you understand when the .380 might be the right choice, smash that like button and subscribe for more content that challenges conventional gun wisdom. Drop a comment below about your carry setup and whether you've ever considered the .380 for defensive use. And if you know someone who's struggling with finding the right carry gun, share this video with them. It might be exactly what they need to hear.